The realtor didn't knock like someone asking permission. He knocked like someone who already had it. 3 quick taps, confident, followed by the soft shuffle of shoes on my front step. When I opened the door, the ocean air was still on the breeze. Salt and sunscreen and expensive perfume from the group standing behind him. A man in linen pants. A woman with oversized sunglasses. Another couple holding coffee cups like this was entertainment. The realtor smiled at me in that polished, practiced way. "Hi," he said. "Private showing. We're right on time." I didn't answer right away. I looked past him to the strangers, then back to his face, then down to the glossy folder in his hand. My condo's exterior photo on the cover, printed like it already belonged to someone else. "I think you're at the wrong unit," I said. His smile didn't move, but his eyes flicked, just slightly like he was checking his script. "No," he said. "This is the address. We're scheduled." Scheduled. My stomach went cold in a slow, controlled way. I didn't step back. I didn't invite them in. I kept one hand on the door edge, steady, and asked, "Who scheduled it?" The realtor hesitated, then glanced down at his phone as if the answer lived there. "Daniel and Marlene Carter," he said. "They're the sellers. They said you might be here and that you'd be emotional." The woman in sunglasses tilted her head like she was watching something on TV. I felt my face stay calm even as my pulse tightened in my throat. My parents. Of course it was my parents. 2 weeks earlier, my grandfather's attorney had slid a deed across a conference table and said, "Your grandfather signed this before he passed. It's recorded. It's yours." He'd said it like a fact, like something solid. I remember how my hands had trembled when I held the paper. Not because I wanted the condo for its view, but because it was the first thing my grandfather ever gave me that my parents couldn't turn into a family obligation. A beach condo in a small coastal town that smelled like seagrass and sunscreen and old money. A place my grandfather loved because it was quiet. He deeded it to me quietly too. No big announcement, no family meeting, just paperwork, properly done, properly recorded. The moment my wealthy parents found out, they didn't scream. They smiled. My mother's smile was the worst. Soft, indulgent, the kind that said how cute that you think this matters. My father patted my shoulder and said, "Well, aren't you lucky?" Then he added, "Don't worry. We'll handle the taxes and upkeep. You won't even have to think about it." It sounded generous. It was a claim. I didn't argue with them. I didn't celebrate in front of them. I didn't give them anything to grab. I just came down here on weekends, kept the place tidy, and let myself breathe in a way I hadn't been able to breathe in years. Until that knock. The realtor shifted his weight, still smiling, still assuming I'd step aside. "Ma'am," he said, lowering his voice slightly, "I'm just doing my job. Your parents signed a listing agreement. We have buyers." I looked at the folder again. My condo's photo, my unit number, the building's name printed in a tasteful font. "How did you get inside the building?" I asked. The realtor glanced back toward the lobby door. "They gave us the access code," he said, "and a key in a lockbox." A lockbox. My hand tightened on the door edge because I hadn't put a lockbox on my property. And only a handful of people had keys. My parents had asked for one, just in case. My father always said, "just in case," when he meant, so I can enter whenever I want. I stepped out into the hallway, closing my door behind me, not slamming it, just closing it with a quiet finality. The realtor blinked, surprised that I hadn't dissolved into tears for the benefit of his clients. "I need to see the paperwork," I said. He smiled like this was a concession. "Of course," he said, and flipped open the folder. I didn't take it from him. I just scanned the top page. Listing agreement, seller names, signatures, Daniel Carter, Marlene Carter. My parents' names typed neatly, like they had the right to give away my grandfather's last gift. "Where's my name?" I asked. The realtor's smile faltered for the first time. "They're the owners," he said, as if repeating it would make it true. "They told me you were living here temporarily." Temporarily. My mother's favorite word for anything that wasn't under her control. I kept my voice even. "They're not the owners," I said. The realtor's face tightened, irritation flickering through the professionalism. Ma'am, the county shows ownership, he said. We pulled the public record. My stomach went colder. You pulled the record, I repeated. Yes, he said, like it was obvious. It's routine. I nodded slowly. Then you won't mind telling me what name you saw on that record. His eyes flicked again. The Carters, he said. Same as always. Same as always. That phrase landed like a warning, because my condo hadn't been same as always for very long. My grandfather signed the condo over to me before he passed. I had seen the deed. I had signed acceptance. The attorney had told me it was recorded. So either the record was wrong, or someone had changed it. I looked at the strangers behind the realtor. The woman in sunglasses had her mouth slightly open now, enjoying the conflict more openly. The man in linen pants was checking his watch like I was delaying his day. I didn't give them more of a show. I'm not allowing a showing today, I said calmly. You need to leave. The realtor's face hardened. Ma'am, you can't obstruct a legal sale, he said. Watch me, I replied, still calm. He opened his mouth again, but my phone was already in my hand. Not to call my parents, to document. I took a photo of the folder, the listing agreement, the page with my parents' names. Then I took a photo of the lockbox outside the building door, hanging there like an insult. The realtor saw me doing it and stiffened. You can't take photos of my clients, he snapped. I'm not, I said. I'm taking photos of my property being marketed without my consent. The stranger shifted, suddenly less comfortable. I looked at the realtor again. Who gave you the access code? I asked. He didn't answer. Who gave you the key? I asked again. He exhaled sharply. Your mother, he said. She said she had authority. My mother. I could hear her voice already. You don't need this. Your sister does. My sister had always been the reason I had to lose something. The reason I had to be mature. The reason I had to be useful. I kept my face neutral. Everyone out, I said. The realtor's jaw tightened, but he motioned the group back, murmuring something about miscommunication. They retreated down the hallway, still staring. When they were gone, I stood there in the quiet and listened to my own breathing. Then I did the only thing that has ever protected me from my parents. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I went straight to the system. I drove to the county records office. It wasn't glamorous. It was fluorescent lights and faded signs and a counter with scuffed laminate. The kind of place where property ownership becomes real because someone typed it into a database. I took a number from the kiosk and waited. When it was my turn, I slid my grandfather's deed copy across the counter. I need the title record for this condo, I said, and I need to see the current owner on the official record. The clerk was an older woman with reading glasses and a tired expression. She didn't look at me like she cared about my drama. She looked at me like she'd seen 100 versions of it. She typed the parcel number into her system. Click. Pause. Click. Her eyes narrowed. Then she stopped moving completely. Not for a second. For long enough that my skin tightened. She leaned closer to her screen, reading something twice. Her lips parted slightly. Then she looked up at me, careful, and said, Ma'am, can you tell me why your name is in the chain of title, but the current owner is listed as... She didn't finish the sentence. She just turned pale when she saw the date of the last transfer. The clerk didn't say the date out loud at first. She just looked at me like she was deciding whether I would handle the truth calmly. I need you to tell me what you're seeing, I said. She swallowed, then turned her monitor slightly so I could see enough without exposing other records. There's a deed recorded, she said. A quitclaim deed. My skin went tight. From who to who? Her finger tapped one line on the screen. From you, she said carefully, to Daniel and Marlene Carter. For a second, my brain tried to reject it on reflex. Like my eyes had misread a word. I never signed anything, I said. I'm not saying you did, she replied. I'm saying what the record shows. I leaned closer. The screen listed the instrument type, the document number, and a recording timestamp. The timestamp was recent. Too recent. It was recorded yesterday, I said, and the words came out flat. The clerk nodded once. My throat felt dry. My grandfather deeded it to me before he passed, I said. That deed was recorded. I have a copy. I see it, she said and clicked. That deed is in the chain of title. Your grandfather transferred it to you properly. My stomach turned. Then how can there be a deed from me to them? The clerk's expression didn't change much, but her eyes hardened in that way people do when they've seen a trick before. Because anyone can submit paper, she said. The system records what's presented if it meets formatting requirements. The question is whether it's valid. I kept my voice even. Can I get a copy of what they recorded? Yes, she said, but I'm going to suggest you speak with our supervisor, because if this is fraudulent, you need to file a fraud alert request and a sworn statement. Please, I said. Now. She stood, disappeared through a side door, and returned a minute later with a second woman, who moved like she ran that office. She had a badge clipped to her cardigan and a look that didn't waste time. I'm the recording supervisor, she said. Tell me what's going on. I placed my grandfather's deed copy on the counter and slid it toward her. My grandfather deeded me the condo, I said. I have a showing scheduled at my unit that I did not authorize. I came here because a realtor told me the county record shows my parents as sellers. The supervisor scanned my copy, then looked up. You're Brooke Carter? Yes. She typed my name into her system herself, faster than the clerk had. Click, click, pause. Then she exhaled slowly. Okay, she said. I see the deed from your grandfather to you. That part is clean. And the other deed? I asked. She clicked again and the screen changed. Her jaw tightened. Quitclaim deed from you to your parents, she said. Recorded yesterday afternoon. I didn't sign it, I said again, not louder, just firmer. The supervisor looked at me for a beat, then said, let's pull the image. She clicked a button, waited, then pointed at the printer behind the counter. The machine started to hum, a sheet slid out, then another, then another. The supervisor collected them and laid them on the counter like evidence. I saw my name typed at the top. I saw the legal description of the condo. I saw the words that made my pulse spike. Grantor, Brooke Carter. Grantees, Daniel Carter and Marlene Carter. And at the bottom, I saw a signature that tried to be mine. It was close enough to fool someone who wanted to be fooled. It had the right loops, the right slant. But it wasn't mine. My real signature has a small hesitation on the first letter because my hand always slows there. This one was smooth, confident, like someone tracing. I didn't react with my face. I didn't give the office a show. I just pointed. That is forged, I said. The supervisor nodded once like she expected that answer. Look here, she said, tapping another section. A notary block, notary name, commission number, county, date. I felt a cold wave move through me when I saw the date. The deed was notarized on a day I'd been in my apartment across the state, on a video call for work, with a time-stamped calendar invite and screenshots. The supervisor traced the notary line with her pen. This was notarized through remote online notarization, she said. See the certificate language? I looked at the wording. It was exactly the kind of official phrasing people use when they want their lies to look like law. Who is the notary? I asked. The supervisor read the name out loud. It was a name I didn't recognize, but I recognized the pattern. My parents didn't need a notary, they knew. They needed a notary who would do it quickly. The supervisor flipped to the first page again. It was submitted via e-recording, she said. Not walked in. My mouth went dry. Who submitted it? She clicked one more time. Then she turned the monitor slightly, just enough for me to see the submitter line. A company name. A title company. And beneath it, an email address that made my stomach drop all over again. It wasn't my parents' names. It was a generic title company address, but the contact line included a phone number. My father's phone number. The supervisor didn't comment. She just said, you want us to place a recording hold on this parcel? Yes, I said. She nodded. We can place a temporary fraud alert, which flags the record, and requires additional review before anything new is recorded. But I need a sworn statement from you today, and you should file a police report as well. I'll do both, I said. Right now. She slid a one-page form across the counter. It was plain. No drama. Just checkboxes and lines. I filled it out with steady hands. Name, address, parcel number. A statement that I did not execute the deed and believed it was fraudulent. When I signed, the supervisor watched my signature the way the IRS agent had watched mine weeks earlier in another nightmare. She compared it to the forged one on the printout, and the difference was immediate. Okay, she said. I'm placing the alert. She turned to her screen and typed something in a field I couldn't see. Then she clicked a button labeled Hold. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a red banner appeared at the top of the record. Fraud alert. Recording hold active. The supervisor printed a confirmation page and slid it to me. This means, she said, if someone tries to record another deed or lien today, it should stop and route to review. My chest loosened slightly. Not relief, not safety, just leverage. I took a photo of the banner on her screen and the printed confirmation. Then my phone buzzed in my coat pocket. A text from my mother. Why are you making a scene? The realtor said you humiliated us. I didn't answer. I kept my eyes on the paper. The supervisor looked at the clerk, then back to me. One more thing, she said. My stomach sank. What? She clicked into the day's queue. There is another submission pending, she said slowly. It came in minutes ago. My pulse tightened. What kind of submission? I asked. Her eyes narrowed at the screen. It's not a deed, she said. It's a mortgage document, a deed of trust. My throat went cold. They're trying to borrow against it, I said, and it came out as a statement, not a question. The supervisor nodded once. Yes, she said. And the hold may have stopped it, but the attempt itself is now visible in the log. She turned to me, voice firm. If you want to stop them from trying again, she said, you need to move fast because someone is trying to monetize your condo today. I didn't leave the counter. Not yet. Because the moment I walked out, my parents could run the next play in the dark, and I needed the light to stay on as long as possible. Print the submission log, I told the supervisor. Everything tied to that quitclaim deed and that deed of trust attempt. She nodded like she'd been waiting for someone to ask the right way. We can print the e-recording metadata, she said. Submitter account, timestamps, routing trail. She clicked through 2 screens and hit print. The machine behind the counter started humming again, steady and indifferent. While the pages came out, I opened my phone and called the one place my parents had already infected. Building management. The property manager answered on the second ring, polite and tired. Seaside Villas, he said. How can I help you? This is Brooke Carter, I said. Unit 9B. I need the access code changed immediately, and I need the lockbox removed from the lobby door. A pause. We don't change codes without board approval, he began. I have a fraudulent deed recorded against my unit, I said calmly. There are strangers being brought to my door today. I'm standing inside the county records office with a fraud hold on my parcel. If you don't change the code, you're letting unauthorized entry continue. Silence. Then his tone changed. What's your email? He asked. I'll send you the hold confirmation and my deed, I said, right now. I took the confirmation page the supervisor printed, photographed it, and emailed it with 2 lines of text. I kept it short because short is harder to twist later. Within a minute, the property manager replied, code will be changed. Lockbox will be removed. Security notified. I exhaled once through my nose. Not relief. Just one door closing. Behind the counter, the supervisor stacked the printed log pages and slid them toward me. I scanned the top. Document number, recording time, submitter account ID, routing details. A note that the deed of trust submission had entered the queue and stopped when the fraud hold triggered review. Then my eyes landed on a line that made my skin tighten. Submitter, Seabright title and escrow. The supervisor watched my face. You recognize the name? She asked. No, I said. But my parents do. Because wealthy people don't forge deeds with scissors and glue. They outsource the dirty work to companies with clean letterheads. Can I get the contact on that account? I asked. She tapped the screen. We have a phone number on file for the submitter, she said, and a point of contact name. She read it quietly, then glanced up at me. It's listed under an authorized filer. What's the name? I asked. She hesitated, then said it. It was my sister's name. My stomach dropped in a slow, controlled way. Not because my sister was some mastermind, because my sister was the perfect excuse, the perfect mask, the perfect good reason. My mother's voice drifted back into my mind, soft as poison. You don't need this, your sister does. I swallowed once and said, that doesn't mean she did it. The supervisor didn't argue. It means the account used her authorization, she said. Which is why you need law enforcement involved. Fraud holds stop recordings. They don't punish intent. I nodded. I'm filing a report now, I said. The supervisor pointed down the hallway. Sheriff's substation is in the same building, she said. Cross the lobby. If you want an officer to come back here and see this while it's on the screen, go now. I didn't rush. I didn't run. I gathered my papers, kept them flat in my folder, and walked through the lobby with my shoulders steady. In the sheriff's substation, the air smelled like coffee and toner. A deputy behind the desk looked up. Can I help you? He asked. I need to report a forged deed and attempted mortgage fraud. Oh, I said. It's happening today. His eyebrows lifted slightly, not in disbelief, more like he'd just gotten a clear reason to pay attention. Name? He asked. Brooke Carter, I said. He typed it, then asked, location of property? I gave him the address. Unit 9B. He looked up. That's in this county, he said, confirming. Okay, tell me what happened. I didn't start with my parents' personalities. I started with the sequence. My grandfather deeded me the condo, I said. That deed is recorded. Yesterday, a quitclaim deed was recorded showing I transferred it to my parents. I did not sign it. A realtor showed up with buyers today, using a code and key my parents provided. When I came to records, the clerk pulled the title record and found the fraudulent deed. The supervisor placed a fraud hold, and we can see a deed of trust submission was attempted minutes ago. The deputy held up a hand. Slow down, he said, but his tone wasn't annoyed. It was procedural. Do you have documentation? I slid my folder across. Deed copy. Fraud hold confirmation. Submission log with timestamps. The printed image of the forged deed with the notary block. He read without speaking, then tapped the notary section with his finger. Remote notarization, he said. Yes, I replied. But I wasn't on any call. I didn't authorize anything. He nodded once. If it's remote, there's usually a video record, he said, and an audit trail. The words audit trail felt like oxygen. Can you request it? I asked. He looked at me for a beat. I can start a report and send a preservation request, he said. But if your parents are trying to close today, you also need a civil attorney to contact the title company and put them on notice. Police reports don't stop closings by themselves. I have an attorney, I said. I didn't yet, but I knew who I was calling the second I left this desk. That was a problem I could solve in minutes. The deputy started typing, fingers moving in short bursts. Any idea how they got your signature? He asked. My father has had access to my old documents for years, Anders, I said. Old IDs, copies, anything he wanted to keep safe. The deputy didn't react emotionally. He just typed faster. And the notary name? He asked. I gave it. He wrote it down, then asked, You said the title submitter account is tied to your sister's name? Yes, I said, but that doesn't mean she did it. It means we need to talk to her, he said. And it means someone is using her identity as cover, which happens a lot when a family wants a clean face on a dirty transaction. He printed a case number and slid it toward me. This is your incident report, Nat, he said. Now I want to see the record in the clerk's system. If the supervisor is willing, I want screenshots of the fraud hold and the pending deed of trust attempt. She is, I said. We walked back across the lobby together. The deputy didn't stride like a hero. He walked like a man who understood that calm paperwork is how you win these fights. When we reached the counter, the supervisor's posture changed the moment she saw his uniform. "I can show you everything," she said. "The hold is active. The attempted deed of trust is in queue, stopped by review." She turned her monitor slightly and pointed to the red banner again. "Fraud alert. Recording hold active." The deputy leaned in, not touching anything, reading the on-screen log. Then he said, "Show me the pending submission details." The supervisor clicked into the queue and opened the attempted deed of trust entry. I watched the deputy's eyes track down the list. Submitter, time, parcel, borrower name. Then his gaze stopped. He looked up at the supervisor. "The borrower name on the deed of trust," he said slowly, "is not Daniel and Marlene Carter." My throat tightened. Then who is it? He didn't answer me right away. He read it again to confirm, then turned the screen just enough for me to see the line clearly. It listed me. Not as owner, as borrower, as the person allegedly taking out a loan against my own condo. The supervisor's face tightened. "They weren't just trying to sell it," she said quietly. "They were trying to saddle her with the debt." The deputy straightened and looked at me in a way that was suddenly more protective than procedural. "Ms. Carter," he said, "if they submit this successfully somewhere else, you could end up fighting a lien you never agreed to." I kept my voice steady. "What do I do right now?" The deputy pointed at the submitter line. "You're going to call that title company," he said, "and you're going to tell them law enforcement is on the record, the county has a fraud hold, and any attempt to proceed will be treated as knowingly facilitating a fraudulent instrument." I nodded once and took out my phone. Then the supervisor added, almost as an afterthought, "There's an attachment on the pending deed of trust file," she said. "A scanned identification page used for the remote notarization." My stomach went cold. She clicked to open it, and the image that appeared on the screen wasn't my current ID. It was a photograph of my driver's license from years ago, one I hadn't seen since I left my parents' house. The deputy stared at it, then glanced at me. "Do you know who had access to this?" he asked. I didn't need to guess. I already knew. I didn't answer the deputy out loud at first because the answer wasn't just my parents. The answer was a whole childhood of my father keeping my documents in a locked drawer for safekeeping, and my mother smiling while he did it, like control was the same thing as love. "My father," I said finally. "He kept copies of everything." The deputy nodded once, not surprised. "Okay," he said. "Then we treat this like an active fraud attempt. We don't wait." He looked at the supervisor. "Can you print the pending deed of trust attachment list and the submitter contact details?" he asked. The supervisor nodded and hit print. Pages slid out. She stapled them neatly and handed them to the deputy like she'd done this before. Then the deputy looked at me. "Call the title company on speaker," he said. "Let them hear there's a case number." I did exactly that. I dialed the number listed for Seabright Title and Escrow. My hand didn't shake because shaking doesn't help. Paper helps. It rang twice. A woman answered with a bright professional voice. "Seabright Title, this is Kendra." "My name is Brooke Carter," I said. "I'm calling about an e-recording submission tied to parcel number." I read it directly from the page. "For a deed of trust that lists me as borrower. That submission is fraudulent. The county has placed a fraud hold, and a deputy is here with me. I have a case number." There was a pause so clean I could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights above the counter. "I'm not sure what you're referring to," Kendra said, still polite, but the brightness had dropped. The deputy leaned in slightly, just close enough to be heard. "Deputy Mild," he said, "County Sheriff. We're standing at the recorder's office looking at your submission in the queue. The fraud hold is active." Silence, then softer. One moment. The line didn't click off. It stayed open. I heard muffled voices in the background. Someone asking, "What is it?" Someone saying, "Fraud hold." Someone else saying, "Who's the borrower?" Then Kendra came back, and her tone was different. "Ms. Carter," she said, "I'm transferring you to our compliance manager." A click. Then a new voice. "This is Angela," a woman said, calm and sharp. "Compliance. Tell me exactly what's happening." I repeated the facts, short and clean. Forged quitclaim deed recorded yesterday. Fraud hold placed. Attempted deed of trust submitted minutes ago listing me as borrower. My ID attachment used was an old license copy kept at my parents' house. Realtor showing scheduled by my parents. Angela didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she asked one question. "Who is the seller on the listing?" She said. "My parents." I said. "Daniel and Marlene Carter." "And who is the authorized filer on our account for this submission?" She asked. I glanced at the log. My sister's name. "It shows my sister," I said. "But I'm telling you right now, I have no proof she did it. My parents could be using her name." Angela's voice stayed calm. "Understood," she said. "But we are going to freeze that file internally and preserve the remote notarization audit trail." The deputy cut in. "We need preservation of the video session," he said. "Not just the certificate." "You'll get it," Angela replied. "I'm also going to pull the closing file." My stomach tightened. "There's a closing?" I asked. Angela paused just long enough to confirm what she was about to say. "There is an active escrow file," she said, "and there was a scheduled signing window." My pulse thudded hard once. "How soon?" I asked. Angela's voice stayed level. "Today," she said. "This afternoon." My throat went cold. So while I was standing at my door with a realtor and strangers, my parents were trying to push paper through a system fast enough that no one would stop it until it was too late. Angela continued. "We are placing an immediate stop," she said, "but I need a written dispute sent to our compliance email with the case number and the fraud hold confirmation." "I can send it now," I said. "Do it," she replied. "And do not contact any signing agent directly. Let this go through compliance." I ended the call and immediately emailed what she requested. Case number, fraud hold confirmation, copy of my grandfather's deed, the forged deed image, and one sentence. "I dispute and deny executing any deed or loan documents. This is fraud." The deputy watched me send it, then nodded once. "That's the right move," he said. Behind us, the supervisor clicked back into the recording system. "The hold will stop new recordings in our office," she said. "But they could try in another county if they misdescribe the property or file related instruments elsewhere." Angela had said freeze and preserve, but my parents weren't the kind of people who respected a stop sign when they believed money was waiting on the other side. I looked at the deputy. "What else?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "Two things," he said. "First, we notify the building management and security, which you already started. Second, you secure your own title." "Secure it how?" I asked. He pointed at the supervisor. "She can tell you about a property fraud alert, but legally, you need counsel to file an action to quiet title if this escalates," he said. "And you need to put your lender and insurance on notice so they don't accept anything." I nodded. "I'm calling an attorney next." My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. "Mom said you're freaking out over the condo." "What's going on?" My chest tightened. Because my sister's message didn't sound like a co-conspirator. It sounded like someone being used. I typed one line back. Careful, factual. "Someone recorded a forged deed from me to them yesterday. A loan was attempted in my name today. I'm with the sheriff at county records. Do not sign anything for them." 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. Then my sister replied, "What?" "I didn't sign anything. Dad told me it was paperwork to help you with taxes." The deputy's eyes narrowed when I showed him. "That's your cover," he said quietly. "They used her access." The supervisor clicked into another tab and said, "There's a mailing address on the quitclaim submission." My stomach tightened. "Whose?" She read it off the screen. "Not my condo, not my apartment. My parents' home address. So any rejection letters, any notices, any follow-up, everything would go to them." The deputy exhaled, then looked at me. "We're going to add a note," he said. "And we're going to request immediate copies of the remote notarization session and the IP logs from the title company. If those show your father or mother was present or initiating, That's evidence. He paused. But you need to be ready for what happens when they realize you blocked the sale. I didn't have to imagine it. My mother had already accused me of making a scene. My father had already sent strangers to my door. They weren't going to take no quietly. As we were gathering the documents, the supervisor's phone rang. She answered, listened for 2 seconds, and her eyes widened. Then she looked straight at me. "Ma'am," she said, voice tight, "the front desk says a man is here asking for you by name. He says he's your agent and he has corrections for the record." The deputy's posture changed instantly. "What's the name?" he asked. The supervisor swallowed. "Daniel Carter," she said, and before anyone could move, my phone buzzed. Again, this time a photo message from my mother. It was a picture of my condo's door with a new lock installed, and one caption beneath it: "We had to secure it. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The photo of my condo door sat on my screen like a threat dressed up as help. A new lock, bright metal against the familiar paint. And my mother's caption, soft and smug like she'd done me a favor. "We had to secure it. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I didn't answer her. I showed the deputy. His jaw tightened. "That's unlawful self-help," he said, "and it's evidence of intent." The supervisor's eyes flicked to the deputy's uniform like she was relieved he was here. "He's still at the front desk," she said, insisting. The deputy nodded once. "He can insist all day," he replied. "He's not approaching you without us." He stepped out first. I followed with the supervisor, my folder pressed flat against my ribs like armor. At the front desk, my father stood with his shoulders back and a manila envelope in his hand. He looked exactly like he always did when he expected a system to bend for him. Calm face, controlled voice, expensive watch placed where you couldn't miss it. When he saw me, he smiled as if the last 2 hours hadn't happened. "There you are," he said. "This is ridiculous. I'm here to fix the record." The deputy stepped between us without touching him. "Sir," he said, "state your name." My father's smile tightened. "Daniel Carter," he said. "Her father." "Mr. Carter," the deputy said evenly, "there is an active incident report for suspected forgery and attempted mortgage fraud tied to this parcel. You will not submit anything in her name today." My father's eyes flicked to the deputy's badge, then back to my face like he wanted me to override authority for him. "Brooke," he said, voice lower, "you're panicking. Your mother and I are trying to protect you. This condo is a liability. Taxes, insurance, HOA. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said, calm. "That's why I'm not signing anything." My father's smile slipped for half a second, then returned sharper. "Then you're going to lose it," he said. "And you'll blame us, like you always do." The deputy held up a hand. "Stop," he said. "Do you have documents to submit?" My father lifted the envelope. "A corrective deed," he said quickly, "to clean up the record." The supervisor, standing behind the desk, didn't move toward him. "We do not accept walk-in corrections without review," she said, "especially not under a fraud hold." My father's jaw flexed. He tried a different angle. "This is family," he said. "You're letting her ruin her sister's future over a misunderstanding." I didn't react to the sister line. I'd heard it my whole life. I just turned my phone screen toward the deputy and said, "My mother changed the lock." The deputy's gaze hardened. "You changed the lock on property you do not legally possess?" he asked my father. My father's expression shifted into offended innocence. "We secured the unit," he said. "There have been threats. She's unstable. The deputy cut him off. "Do not diagnose her," he said. "Answer the question." My father's eyes narrowed. "We had authority," he said. "From what?" the deputy asked. My father's lips parted, then closed. Because the only authority he had was the forged deed he'd tried to push through. The deputy turned slightly, speaking to the supervisor. "Can you print the ownership screen with the fraud hold banner visible?" he asked. The supervisor nodded and did it immediately. The printer hummed. A page came out showing the parcel, the chain of title summary, and in bold at the top, "Fraud alert. Recording hold active." She slid it to the deputy. The deputy held it up at chest height and said, "This is the record today. You are not listed as owner. You are listed as a party involved in a contested recording." My father's face flushed, and I watched the moment he realized the front desk wasn't the kind of counter he could charm or intimidate. He looked at me then, eyes sharp. "Fine," he said. "If you want to play it that way, we'll sell it through the proper channels." I didn't blink. "You can't sell what you don't own," I said. That's when my phone buzzed again. An email from the compliance manager at Seabright Title and Escrow. Subject: File frozen. Fraud investigation. Initiated body. We have placed an immediate stop on the escrow file and preserved the remote notarization video, audit trail, and IP logs. No closing will proceed. We are notifying the recording agent and signing service. I showed it to the deputy and the supervisor. The deputy nodded once. "Good," he said. My father saw my face, changed slightly, and knew something had happened. "What did you do?" he demanded. I didn't answer him. I said to the deputy, "I want access to my condo restored." The deputy turned to my father. "Remove the lock," he said. My father's laugh was sharp. "I'm not giving her keys to a property she'll lose in court," he snapped. The deputy's voice stayed level. "It's not your property," he repeated. "If you refuse to restore access, the property manager will be contacted and you may be cited for unlawful interference." My father's eyes flicked toward the lobby as if he were looking for an ally. There weren't any. Because offices don't care about family narratives. They care about records. The supervisor added, "The building has already been notified to change codes," she said. "Your lock will not override their access controls." My father's jaw tightened. He looked at me one last time, like he was trying to scare me back into obedience. "Your sister needs this," he said quietly. "If you loved your family, you would stop." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just said, "If you loved your daughter, you wouldn't forge her name." The deputy stepped closer. "Mr. Carter," he said, "you need to leave this office, now." My father's face went stiff. He glanced at the envelope in his hand like he couldn't believe paper wasn't saving him today. Then he turned and walked out, too controlled to explode where it would be recorded. When he was gone, the deputy looked at me. "Next step," he said. "You file the civil notice and work with counsel to clear title. On our side, we're preserving the remote notarization video and the IP logs. If that shows your parents participated, it becomes criminal." I nodded. "And the condo?" I asked. The supervisor answered before the deputy could. "The last valid recorded deed in the chain is your grandfather's deed to you," she said. "This fraudulent quitclaim will be flagged and will not be relied upon once the review is complete." The words landed clean. Not a promise. A record-based statement. I left the building with my folder pressed against my ribs and my phone buzzing with messages I didn't read. On the drive back to the coast, I called the property manager again. "I need maintenance at my door," I said, "and I need the lock replaced with my lock today." He didn't argue this time. "We're sending someone," he said. "Security will escort." When I arrived, the lockbox was gone. The code had been changed. A security guard stood by the elevator like he'd been told my unit was now a problem with paperwork attached. Maintenance met me at my door, removed the new lock, and handed it to me in a plastic bag like evidence. I didn't throw it away. I labeled it and kept it. Because my parents' biggest mistake wasn't trying to sell my condo. It was trying to create a reality with paper. And in the end, paper was exactly what destroyed their plan. A week later, Seabright Title sent another email. The notarization video showed my father present off camera, giving instructions, while my mother held my old ID up to the screen. The signing agent terminated the session after identity mismatch. Concerns were raised, but the packet had already been routed for submission. That video went to the sheriff's office, and the county recorder's fraud unit, and to my attorney, who filed the quiet title action the same day. At the next recorded review, the fraudulent deed was formally rejected, the attempted mortgage instrument was voided, and the condo remained titled to me as my grandfather intended. My parents didn't get a beach payday. They got a case number, a preserved video file, and a court-ordered warning not to contact me about the property again. And when I finally sat on my balcony that night, listening to the ocean in the dark, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt something better, safe, because this time the record didn't just stop them, it named them.